My name is Dustin Betz. I'm the digital content editor at the Founder Institute, and I'm here with Lucas Farias de Moraes Sarmento. He's the founder and COO of Polen. They're a Founder Institute Rio de Janeiro portfolio company whose platform tracks and incentivizes recycling by diverting waste streams that are headed to the landfill towards companies that can use those byproducts as raw materials. So, Lucas, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Dustin. It's a pleasure for me.
Yeah, so before we dive into your startup, Polen, it'd be awesome if you just tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, what were the experiences, whether personal or professional, that led you to founding this impact startup focused on recycling?
All right. So I majored in economics, and then I went to work at the oil and gas industry here in Rio de Janeiro. From this work experience of like 5 to 7 years working in financial controlling and financial planning, I've dealt with a lot of suppliers that are manufacturing industries, and I could gather from that experience that waste was a huge problem for them. It's a huge line on their balance sheet and financial reports. So this is a problem that is worth solving, both when you look at the results of these companies, their profit margins and operational efficiencies, and also when you look at it from an environmental perspective. I think it's clear for everyone what is happening with the planet right now, and the forecast of resource scarcity. So as much as we can use the materials that we have already extracted from nature, I think we are in a good path forward. This is what many people call a circular economy, and especially in Brazil, this is a huge opportunity because it's a market that has a huge space for development and for growing. So this was the perceptions that made us start Polen, and
Yeah,
think that this would be a great market to address.
that's awesome. And so, yeah, just to kind of kick it off or preface this for anybody who's maybe not familiar, I mean, I know that at Polen, you're using data to find new markets for these materials that might otherwise be wasted, but just hear the kind of short pitch straight from you, the founder. What is Polen?
All right. So we basically, nowadays we have two products that are at the market right now. The first of them is a marketplace platform for companies that generate waste, making it easy for them to sell these materials as input for other companies that are able to use them in their production process. So we connect these two companies using a web-based platform where they can exchange information about the materials and even complete a full transaction of buying and selling waste as an input for another production process. Coming from that, and with the experience that we gather and running that platform, we launched the second product that is a blockchain-based recycling incentivizing scheme. I'll make that clear. And there's a law in Brazil that makes it mandatory for companies that put packaged goods in the market. So we think like food and beverage, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals. Every company that puts that sells a packaged good to a final consumers, they have to account for the recycling of this packaging post-consumption. So basically, the soda bottle that is in that you just have drink at your place, and this is the responsibility of the company that manufactures it. So this is a big challenge in terms of traceability and and bringing back those materials into new production processes. And the work right now, this work right now is done mostly by waste pickers cooperatives, that they actually do the job that was supposed to be done by the manufacturers. And so what we develop here in Brazil is kind of a carbon credit scheme. So these cooperatives, they pick and gather the post-consumption waste, and then they sell this to recycling companies, and by doing that they generate what we call a reverse logistics credit, and then through our platform we sell those credits to companies that are required to offset the impact of their packaging that they sold to the final consumers. So it's very similar to a carbon credit scheme, but for the world of recycling. And we use blockchain to track all that and to trace the both the materials and the certificates that prove that the manufacturing companies were responsible for the reverse logistics of the packaging of their products, basically.
Awesome. Yeah. And one thing, you know, I want to talk about measuring impact a little bit later, but one thing I just want to highlight up front is that basically what your company, one of the values that you deliver is basically measuring this impact mandated by law that these companies, you know, have to report. So sort of like this blockchain enabled automatic tracking. When we talk about measuring impact, which is like something that a lot of, you know, social impact founders are curious about, like how can I quantify the good that I'm actually doing? Part of your business value is actually quantifying the impact of the materials that are saved or diverted from waste, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that for us is very centric to our approach, is that we are our impact company. Not we didn't create Polen actually to have a positive impact on the environment. This is kind of this comes from the idea that this is just more efficient for us as a society to move into a circular economy. It's not just about positive impact for the environment. It's about efficiency. It's about cost reductions. It's about reducing the losses that we have through the process. So it's much more about efficiency than some form of like tree hugging and protecting the environment with false claims and I don't know. It's much more about the reality of the process and how can we make this flow of materials better and more efficient. And in the meantime, we are totally aware that there's a positive externality connected to the business that we do. So when you talk about impact, it's very natural for us because our business model is totally aligned with the positive impact that we cause on the world, of that we help our clients cause on the world we live in. So
yeah, I want to ask you about kind of the challenges specifically of being an impact company. And I love the way that you frame it. Is not, you know, this is not a tree hugging is not the thing that is driving it, but it's really about like finding efficiencies, and circular economy is just a more efficient way to think about, you know, these physical materials and making the most use out of them. But for somebody to, so rewind yourself to kind of the first product you were talking about, you know, before the blockchain-based incentives where you're just the marketplace. I mean, in the earliest stages for an impact founder who's pre-MVP, I mean, what were the biggest challenges maybe that you faced as a company in building that first product? Maybe, and what were some of the ways that you overcame those early big product challenges?
all right, so I think the biggest challenges are mostly related to Brazil geographically and the startup ecosystem over here. because there's a lot of lack of talent for development. That was something that we went through, and we overcame that by uh, um, doing what we could with our MVP in a very lean fashion, and taking it more to the service level over what would be a full featured product. So that helped us very much uh, prove our values, and and showed our clients what our how can we make them better. So that was something that we had to do due to the lack of development and technical talent here in Brazil. We overcame that by adding a lot of service levels to our whole offering.
Mhm.
And once we could prove that, and the thing that makes you more valuable to investors, and then you can go on and build a product that that does what it's supposed to do. So in
Mhm.
the first stages, that was like our main challenge, which we overcame, just as I described.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to ask you also about basically delivering a compelling impact startup pitch. And this is sort of something that you alluded to at the beginning with,
Yeah.
saying purely environmental motivation. That's like not where we're coming from. Have you had, when you communicate about being an impact company, but being a for-profit venture, have you ever had challenges with communicating that vision or being confused as, is this a nonprofit company? Can you talk just a little bit about how you, when you talk about the impact that you make, how you talk about it and how you clear up any confusion about what it is that you're actually doing?
Yeah, that's something that we put a lot of effort in. How are we gonna approach that? Because after all, some people were gonna think like, oh, these guys are just talking about the environmental or social impact of the solution, and where's the money, like both for clients and both and also for investors. um, so we kind of try to stay away from that, and deliver uh, uh, our environmental impact features in the way that I just did in the beginning of our conversation. It's just like something, first of all, is a way for you to increase efficiency of your operations. And as a consequence of that, you also um, have this positive impact on the environment, and we do give ways for our clients to tell that to the world. A big component of our product is the ability to gather this information in a easy to read way. So we do give tools for them to advertise that, to put that in a sustainability report that is going to be read by their investors or the market. But first, we will reduce how much you're paying to landfill the waste that you're generating at your facilities. First, we're gonna reduce the risk of your company basically getting fined for not providing information about the recycling of your post-consumption package. Uh, Once we get this message through that we are about efficiency, we are about reducing costs, we are about delivering results in an old-fashioned way. Uh, then we go on to talk about the positive impact, and that becomes like a differentiator between us and a possible competitor.
Yeah, awesome. That leads me into kind of my last prepared question, which we've sort of been talking about. I'd be interested in hearing like what is generated for specifically like in those reports that you mentioned about, so it's first about like, yeah, savings and efficiency, and then you go into like, I assume like the actual specific materials, like this kind of PPE or whatever plastic it is. Because my kind of final question that we've sort of been leading towards the whole time is like, how are you measuring impact? And because your blockchain product basically does this for your customers, I'm interested in the nitty gritty kind of details of the materials that you're doing, or what is the way that you find this reporting when you are talking about the actual environmental impact? Like, what's the most compelling way, or how are you guys measuring that right now?
Sure. So landfill diversion is a worldwide recognized metric for an efficiency in dealing with waste. The more we can avoid sending our materials that are actually resources to be landfill, the better. So this is one of the metrics that we report on. And also there's a direct relationship between how much recycling you do and the carbon emissions that are emitted in the atmosphere due to the extraction of raw materials and the whole chain that is associated with it. So this is also a part of our reports, especially for the blockchain based recycling scheme. Like if you're a company that is doing reverse logistics with us, you will know we have our product offering is basically a QR code on our packaging, and when your consumer reads it, he's redirected to a page where the impact of your program will be described. So there will be a list of all the waste pickers cooperatives that are being paid by your company, and how much that will impact them, because waste pickers cooperatives here in Brazil, at least, and I think in a lot of third world countries, they are like very low income citizens. It's basically it's a terrible situation, and at the moment that your company pay them, of course, for their environmental services, you are helping with that situation. And also there's that metric of how much the recycling of these materials contributes to the reduction of carbon emissions. So we provide this kind of impact, and what is really cool about it, it's in the hand of your consumer. And we know nowadays that this is a big part of the decision made by a consumer. Like, we want to know where our stuff comes from. I think supply chain tracking is a reality right now, and what we propose and what we deliver for our clients is your consumer is gonna know where this bottle is gonna end up when they are finished consuming it, when they're finishing with, using your product. So it's a full circle thing, and we believe this is it's very capable to drive consumer decisions.
Yeah, I think that yeah, consumer behavior is definitely a huge driver, and it leads well into something else I wanted to ask you about. Is just, are there any big trends? Maybe they're new or emerging. Maybe, I mean, I know this Brazil mandated law, I think, has been on the books for a while now. You know, possibly emerging related to COVID-19 and how the economy is just changing. I know we've mentioned circular economy a few different times. That's probably a word people are familiar with. Is there any kind of other trend or anything you haven't talked about, something that's new and interesting to you?
Yeah, I think what I just said is one of those trends, like traceability and transparency throughout the value chains of the products that are coming to us. This is a big thing, and it's something that is like really driving consumer decisions. And we do a lot of research on packaging and how can we make packaging more informational, more interactive. How can we make that not just like some piece of garbage that you're gonna throw away later? So this is something that is very I think like looking forward is something that we're gonna consider a lot. And environmental compensation in the end is what we do with this second offering. uh, it's a very efficient way for the polluting companies or the activities that are causing maybe a negative impact on the world to make up for that. And if we can give them efficient and easy to use tools for making that happen, this is a no-brainer for them. That's something that's actually, I think it's worth mentioning. um, a lot of people think like big manufacturing companies or like the production sector of our economy overall is like uh, they don't care about environmental impacts or it's something that is just for shows. But what we find, like for since we started Polen, is that the everybody is eager to join sustainability movements and to do something, but sometimes what is lacking is an easy way to do that. Like, and I don't mean easy as a negative term, but an cost efficient way for you to do that. So that's what we think about when we are developing a new feature on our platform. That's what we think about when we are launching maybe a new product. And how can we make sustainability cost efficient for the companies that are actually responsible for a part of the the negative impact on our environment.
Awesome. Well, the last question I kind of have to end on is sort of, where's Poland headed next? Obviously, only things you want to disclose publicly. Any news or anything you want to share or any asks, or if I just forgot to ask you something and you want to talk about something that I didn't ask you about, now's kind of the chance to plug it here at the end.
All right. So we are very excited with this compensation scheme, the blockchain-based recycling compensation scheme. And that is something that we really think could go global. There's other countries that kind of have legislation that are similar to what we have here in Brazil, which in the end is just the extended responsibility of the producers. There's like variations of that around the world. And from what we've from our experience doing that for the past year or so, is there a very efficient way for you to foster and empower recycling chains around the world. This is a major bottleneck on the recycling process is the value of the material once it's consumed by the consumers. There's little value when we can redirect the flow of resources to make this the our waste valuable. Then we are able to build whole supply chains around that and make the recycling or the circular economy feasible and also an economic landscape. So this is something that we are working very hard. Like the cooperatives that are our partners on this platform, we've seen some of them double the income of their participants, the monthly income of their participants. So this is actually there's actual impact on the lives of these people that in the end are doing a crucial job for us to survive in a world where we know the consumption is not gonna reduce. So
Yeah.
that's something that we are very proud of and working very hard to be able to maintain and grow our network.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely, include links to all of your websites. So anybody who's seeing this, listening to it all in full, will be able to link and see and go check out the work you're doing. This has been a really interesting conversation and enlightening to hear about an impact company, Polen, and all the progress you guys are making. Lucas, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you, Dustin. It was a great pleasure for us to talk about what we're doing and share a little bit about our trajectory. So if anyone want to know more about us, head to our website. That is going to be linked in the description and in the links on the post. And feel free to reach out. I'm all for it.
Awesome.